Unfortunately, AI and the likes of technology is going to run a lot of our jobs down. The one thing that it won't run down human capital. And for those that don't know what the term human capital actually means, it's the energy that you as a human are able to put out that no machine could ever replace. That way, you don't even have to think twice about where you're getting it from, and you know it's coming from a reliable source, right? Right? You can vet everything inside, especially inside of our community, because we're transparent about everything, right? Transparency and honesty. I think those are key aspects of life, right? You got to be transparent and honest. So, every week we try to deliver some type of information that we feel like might be helpful or aid in anyone's journey to, one, capital raising, two, just in your own pursuits as an entrepreneur. Ideally, we all have the right tools. And, the interesting thing about society today is that the right tools really all represent what you know. It's funny. I was always raised with this notion that it's who you know, not what you know, right? I've grown to realize that it's actually a combination of both. What you know will get you there, and who you know oftentimes will get you there, but what you know will keep you there, right? And I'm gonna say that again. Who you know will often get you through the door. What you know will keep you there, right? There's a lot of opportunities that may come across any one of our tables, but I think the key is to have the tools and the knowledge base of the what you know. And I think that's the only thing that I can help with. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I know a few people, but with the what you know, right? So this is the FYI moment for the community, right? So today I wanted to go over, just a few of the deeper credit stacking strategies. And it's not personal credit. Again, I'm very much for the entrepreneur. We're all leading into a world right now that unfortunately AI and the likes of technology is going to run a lot of our jobs down. The one thing that it won't do is it won't run down human capital. And for those that don't know what the term human capital actually means, it's the energy that you as a human are able to put out that no machine could ever replace. And in all honesty, I think there's going to be a harmonic growth between it all. I think that's the hopes. But listen, the reality of it is that we are going to all get pushed more and more into the space of being entrepreneurs. And unfortunately, for some, that might not work out too well. But hopefully, for the good majority, that actually, and again, the ones that are here, we are all here because we like to create opportunity for ourselves. And if that is who you are, then you're definitely more than beyond in the right place. All right. So let's get into it. So deep credit and capital moves. And we've done a lesson in this direction before, but I wanted to revisit this today about stacking corporations for maximum leverage, right? Corporation A, Corporation B, Corporation C. And again, I'm just using the example of the three, right? So the core of this lesson is about how we utilize multiple business opportunities for one single purpose. So the reason for that is because we do this because we're explaining creative financing. So let me explain what creative financing is. Creative financing is not just looking at a singular route to accomplish as the means to an end, meaning you don't only look at auto loans for the sake of accomplishing an auto loan or the sake of getting vehicles. Sometimes the auto loans are a means to raise capital, right? And again, I don't want to make reference to how, the auto conversion plays that have been blown up in the public's eye, but historically that has actually been a strategy for people to use. And what that means is that you have to think about yourself in multiple positions at one time. So here's what I mean. If you could think of yourself as the customer buying the car and the dealership selling the car at the same time, then that you'll get a good concept is what this entire lesson is about. You can control every aspect of the deal if you position yourself to be every player on the board. All right. I hope that makes sense. So what we're covering tonight, our build program. So stacking corporations, personal guarantors, and age corps. And again, don't let the personal guarantors scare anybody. I have a solution for you guys, even those that don't have the greatest credit and the best credit situation. So number two, reports and financial docs. So managing credit like a CFO, because that's what this is. This is CFO level credit. This is CFO level finance. Creative financing at its highest form. You can. Don't get me wrong. There's a level of getting into institutional capital on the international level, using international international instruments. And again, we have a capital call meeting coming up pretty soon about utilizing international instruments, SBLCs, standby letters of credit, which is what that is, or international bills of exchange. You may have heard some of these things online, but there's an actual practical way to utilize these things. And I guess another thing about what you learn here in the academy is we use practical application. It's like, if we can't do it in real life, I don't want to talk about it, because I hear a lot of things, but again, it's like, that's not practical. That won't affect anybody's life in a positive way in any type of fashion, right? So financial engineering, manufactured spending 2.0 plus creative financing, right? Number 4, asset classes and resources. So royalties, notes, and where to buy them. Yes, I'm going to give you guys a couple resource tools tonight, right? Let's go over the build program. Stacking corporations. So what is this about? It's the multiplier formula. So three corporations equals 3 EINs and 3 credit profiles. Well, it could be the same credit profile, personal profile, used for all 3 companies. 2, each corp qualifies separately for Amex, Chase, Inc., Divvy. And again, you guys get the point. Why would you want to do this? Because you're multiplying the amount of capital you can raise amongst multiple companies, right? So you're not just raising capital solely off of the one business. You're raising, you're not just doing 50,000 or 100,000 off of one. Imagine doing 50,000 off of 10. So the reason why I want to display this and why I thought this was so important is because I wanted everybody to see how easy it is, or easy, at least conceptual, how easy it is for someone to talk about $500,000 in raise. I just brought that up, right? It's a math game. It's just a math problem. All right, if I can raise 50 on one company, then I could do that 9 more times and I could raise $500,000, right? So think of it in the sense of multiples. One personal plus multiple business profiles equals massive capacity. Each corpse spreads risk plus keeps underwriting clean. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of bankers out here and a lot of institutions that actually appreciate the idea of you coming in with multiple companies, right? So Corporation A, consulting and services. B, it's an SPV. SPV means a special purpose vehicle, right? It's a real estate acquisition. SPV C, debt and note portfolio. SPV D, vehicle and equipment finance. Now, what I want to do, though, for even in this, and let me stop sharing. What I want you guys to understand is that when you see the fact that each company has a very designated purpose, there's one famous line that I say to everyone: no one company will satisfy all your financial needs. All right, I'm gonna say that again. No one company will satisfy all of your financial needs. I need everybody in our group to understand that when you're approaching your decision making in capital raising and doing anything that you want to do, don't think of how are you going to encompass everything under one roof. It'll never happen. And if you do make it happen, you are exposing so much risk to that one company, you'll hate the fact that you structured it like that out the gate. You'd be so furious at yourself, because the moment that litigation ends up happening, somebody sues you or the IRS comes after you because you forgot to do your taxes and whatever happens, the moment that somebody comes down the pipeline and they put a lien against you, it's a wrap. Everything you have under that company is exposed. So it's not even smart to do it that way, right? I mean, unless you guys truly believe that every wealthy person that you see out there flying private jets, like that private jet is in their personal name, or it's under a single business name. How many people in the group are old enough to remember when the day 9/11 happened? You guys remember? You guys remember 9/11, when the day that it happened? Okay, so the day that happened, has anybody ever wondered themselves, why didn't Delta, or what was it, a Delta and American Airlines, why didn't they get shut down? For that type of an accident, that entire company should be owned by somebody different. You ever thought about that? You ever thought about, like, damn, who the hell sued them? Because I never heard anything about somebody getting rewarded a lot of money for all those deaths that happened on those planes, at least supposedly, right? Let me tell you why it didn't happen and why it can't happen and it won't happen. Is because every single plane is engulfed inside of its own trust or its own LLC. Every single plane, not company, every plane is owned by a separate company and is being leased back to the corporate. So the only thing you can sue for is whatever the plane, that entity that's inside of that plane is inside of. That's it. That's the only policy you're going to get access to, because everything is spread out amongst everybody. And again, I mean, amongst every single plane and every single piece of assets that they have, right? The plane is an asset. It makes them money. It generates them revenue. But from the pilots to everybody that's involved, again, so this is about liability protection. And this is the reason why when you're strategizing how to build out your overall capital raise, you have to think about that strategy growth, that strategy of like liability protection in the midst of of it all. All right, let me get back to the lesson. So again, so we understand why, why we have these separate vehicles, right? We have separate vehicles inside of our company as well. So again, we practice what we preach over here. So the resource spotlight. So the personal guarantors. For anyone out there that's credit challenged, again, this is the reason why objective is to provide you guys resources and tools so you can make it happen no matter what, right? Oh, my personal credit isn't good. That's okay. Hire a personal guarantor for you. A third-party individual with strong personal credit who agrees to sign as a personal guarantor on your business loan or credit application for a fee. They accept personal liability so your credit isn't on the hook. They can unlock approvals your corp can't yet get a loan, right? So most of us are thinking to ourselves, you can only go to family members for stuff like this, right? And then the family member that actually has incredible credit, they don't want to mess with you, right? So I got you. WholesaleShelfCorps.com, right? Up to $750,000 per credit partner, right? Match via fundingpartnerships.com. Unsecured cards, loans, lines of credit, equipment, auto and real estate finance, physical office. Their physical office is in Greenwood Village, Colorado. They have their own independent program, and then they are also partnered with with the second company, right? Fundingpartnerships.com. Dedicated credit partner. And again, for those that might not know, credit partner is the term. If you ever want to look this up, you're looking up what a credit partner is, right? Credit partner matching service. It browse partners with excellent credit. So it's a monthly fee equals a fixed minimum or a percentage of the balances, meaning like you're going to either pay them a monthly fee, like a monthly retainer almost, or you're going to give them a percentage of the deal when you decide to exit them out of the deal, right? So 6 to 12 months, payments reserve required, right? So it's expensive, but hey, you might not have the credit, but you can get a few dollars to pay for a credit partner and they can unlock the rest of the plan for you. Business plan plus preferred CPA attorney, right? Again, those are some of the things that they add inside of their service. But again, I want you guys to be able to see, and there are so many other companies out here like this. I wanted to give you guys the resources of just a couple, right? So at least in your mind, you start realizing, damn, I want to go get that SBA loan so I can qualify to go buy this business out, and it would be great to do that, but I don't have good credit and I don't have enough money or resources to really make this happen. All right, so contact one of these companies, find yourself a credit partner, and then orchestrate the deal. So we are deal makers, right? Let's orchestrate the deal because you can piece together all the pieces in a deal, and this is what this whole lesson should help you guys do. All right, so let's talk about age corps and registered agent services. All right, spoiler alert, WyomingCompany.com is where I buy the majority of my age corporations from. So if you ever come to us and say, hey, I want to get an age corp, literally, I'm contacting my rep over at WyomingCompany.com. They treat me so good. They always deliver. In fact, I'll show it at the end, but I've got one of the age corp documents sitting right next to me right now. Inventory of 6,000 plus age shelf corps across all 50 states. Wyoming, #1 rated business friendly, lowest tax state, right? A plus BBB rated since 2005, over 40,000 entities formed, 1,250 plus 5-star reviews. PDF docs delivered to inbox in as little as 2 hours, and that is an absolute fact. Includes registered agent service plus public record address privacy. Annual renew in Wyoming, only $62. So, and again, we had a whole nother lesson about setting up respective Wyoming LLCs and how to create a holding structure. The top LLC, you would have it being taxed as a corporation, or actually creating a corporation and then having all of your subsidiary LLCs. But either way, that was a whole lesson on holdings that we did, right? Now, one of my favorite registered agent companies, residentagent.net. They have such a comprehensive service because they keep everything in the cloud and so well organized. And again, their reps, they respond to everything. If you receive mail, they'll scan it in, make sure everything's available. So serves as official registered agent in any state, handles services and process and legal mail, keeps your personal address off public records, required in every state you register a corporation or LLC or what have you. Low annual fee, it's about $100, 99 bucks. Budget friendly for multiple corps. And again, I've utilized this exact same company. So I'm giving you guys my personal resource tool, right? These are the top two companies. Like when I get age corps, I hire Wyoming Company. When I am starting up new businesses or registering any other formations, I'm using Resident Agent. And I like to work with them to go through the process, right? And be my registered agent. Excellent service level. And again, that's important because you guys need the tools. Notice that I didn't say anything about like some of the bigger companies that may be out there that to work with when it comes to registered agent or, sometimes formation services. Resident agent, for example, they offer formation services and everything as well. So if you're guessing about anything, both of these companies are excellent at being able to give you insight to your formation choices. And you can actually speak to a real human. They're small in their team size, and because they're not super overwhelmed, like some of these other major companies are. You're not speaking to someone overseas. You're literally speaking to, I think Jim is actually one of our reps. Ed is another rep that I speak to at Wyoming Company. My guy Tone, that's on the call right now, he has a couple reps over there we speak to all the time. And again, it's just it's a great service and a great people to work with. Right. So you're going to need that as a tool. Right. So then now let's talk about manufacturer spending. All right. You've gotten to the point where you've gotten the credit partner, you've got some age corps, the companies, everything's all set up, and you've gotten approved for some funds. But what do we do with some of that money? And how do we multiply that using some of the creative financing or, financial engineering tools that we have? The most reliable route today, Company A purchases services or products from Company B, companies you control. The transaction is real, the revenue is real, and the funds cycle back through your corporate credit cards. So it's generating rewards points and qualifying the corp for revenue-based financing, right? Revenue-based funding. So Corporation A pays for services, the Corporation B receives the revenue-based funding unlocked. And then, of course, once the cards and everything are paid back, again, what ends up happening is you start activating a lot of the rewards points. This is where we get into the idea of manufactured spending, right? Now, I've been asked the question a bunch of times, is this legal? And again, I'll answer that question with a question. Is it legal for you to buy a vehicle from your own dealership? And again, I think when you start asking yourself that type of question, it starts sounding a little ridiculous. Of course it would be legal. Yes, absolutely. So it's not only beyond legal, it happens every single day in our faces. The owners of Company A over here are buying from Company B over there, and they're all essentially the same owners, right? And again, real world example of what I'm talking about. Does anybody know how many companies BlackRock owns, right? Does anybody actually know how many companies BlackRock owns? Thousands. Now, do you think for one moment that those companies aren't spending money with each other? They absolutely are, right? So real revenue-based funding becomes an opportunity, reward stacking, and then limit increases, right? Consistent high volume spending signals to issuers, you need more runway. Triggers automatic credit line reviews and credit line increase requests. I hope that makes sense to everybody, right? These are all strategies that I'm giving you guys of what you could do if you had your multiple companies already established, even if you start off with bad credit, all right? Alternative income proofs. So I threw this in here in this part of the lesson because I wanted you guys to see some of the assets that you can acquire. Because what do we want assets for? We want assets for our balance sheet, the balance sheet of our companies. Right? I'm a somewhat of a music guy. At least I think I used to be. So I threw in a few things that you guys can buy in the music space if you wanted to, right? Purchase song royalty catalogs using capital raised by your corps. So boom, you went through this whole process of setting up the companies, getting someone on board to be a personal guarantor for hire. You raise a little capital, you start running that revenue through the companies, you go get revenue-based loans and all these other things that has nothing to do with personal guarantor credit. You increase the capital access you have, and now you're buying assets. The catalog is a real asset that lives on your balance sheet. Then borrow against that catalog with a note-based credit facility and get access to even more capital. So not only will you be generating revenue off of this, you can also borrow against the future revenue of the catalog, turning streaming income into collateral. Lenders recognize royalty income as recurring, documentable revenue. So of course, you can't do this without actually giving you guys some examples of where you can find this. Marketplace. So Royalty Exchange, for those that might not know, is a marketplace with 30,000 plus investors who buy and sell trademark plus royalty streams from artists like Lana Del Rey, Khalid, Tate McRae. And there's you know what? It's crazy. We saw some Color Me Bad catalog on Royalty Exchange. I was like, what? Right? Life of rights deals are available. Sometimes you buy them because you're buying them for the next 2 or 3 years, 5 years. And again, for you guys that don't know, you're getting into this to the venture capital space with this type of stuff, right? SEC qualified SongVest, SEC qualified fractional song shares, over 15 million in sales, quarterly royalty distributions from Spotify, Apple Music, radio, and more. It's a fan forward type platform, right? This is a Euro leader, A Note Music, Europe's leading music royalty platform. Buy fractional shares of verified catalog. Secondary market active since 2020, right? So the average investors are up 30% over 2 years. So again, they got 30% more investors involved with this platform because they know what I'm teaching you guys Now, diversified. Bolero Music, 3,500 plus songs available. Targets 8% interest returns. So it's almost like a loan. You're giving them out a loan. Covers 15 plus royalty streams. Masters plus publishing rights. And anyone that knows this, knows about music, knows the power of master, right? And the publishing rights. Starting from $25, institutional grade valuation models are available inside of it, right? So, of course, we can't stop there with adding things to our balance sheet, things that we can ultimately borrow against to increase our buying power, because that's the whole purpose of all of this. Keep increasing your buying power, buy more assets. Increase your buying power, buy more assets, and rinse and repeat the process time after time after time, right? Thus making yourself into a mogul. All right, alternative income proofs. Buy notes, note receivables as assets, right? Purchase pre-collected note receivables and charge off debt portfolios at deep discounts. Offer 1 to 5 cents on the dollar. So if a portfolio is like $1,000, you're gonna literally offer $100, maybe $50 for $1,000, 25, $50 for $1,000 note. So the value of the note is actually $1,000 on its face, but you're offering pennies on the dollar for every dollar, right? So they're not expensive to acquire. Again, we started this off by explaining how you can capital stack and utilize a personal guarantor for hire to be able to go after the capital, ultimately to be able to buy these type of assets, to then be able to leverage against to go buy more. Hold them to your corp's balance sheet as receivables. A real asset lender can underwrite against, collect on them, and sell them at a markup. These notes haven't yet been sent to collectors, making recovery rates much higher. So these examples are very general examples. People like my guy Cedric in the community has far deeper resources than this. And there's several of us in the community that have deeper resources than this. But I wanted to give you guys these, at least for Workshop Wednesdays, so you know that there's a real resource out there. DebtExpert.com, right? Hyperstack.com, Dealstream Financial, right? And then Note Direct, for usually for brokers. So investment. So let me go back to Dealstream, investment portfolio marketplace. So they usually sell it as a complete bundle. Find credit card receivables, medical debt, mortgages, and loans, historical performance data, plus bid tools for serious buyers. So again, these are the things you can get into as you grow and acquire more liquid capital to be able to buy into these assets. Again, I'm not asking you guys to pull much money out of your own pocket. I'm just simply saying leverage the tools that are available to you, right?
Yeah, you gotta buy the portfolio size.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, most people don't sell. I can sell one debt, but most
Right,
people
right.
sell one debt. You gotta buy because I bought a portfolio, so I can split it up. But the bank
Yeah,
or whoever's not, they're not gonna sell you one because it's not beneficial to them. So they're gonna sell you a lump sum of debt at one time.
1,000,000%. And again, no, he called me and was like, "Bro, I'm about to put this bread up, man. Yo, wish me luck." But no, he went over the top, got it done, and yeah, he actually has a real live portfolio for sure. Again, those are all things that could be added to the balance sheet, right? So, and again, that's also part of the reason for the community, you guys. So we can have these type of people amongst us that are right here. Hey, you know what? Let me go inside of the academy and just hit up Cedric and see if he's got some debt I can buy. That way, you don't even have to think twice about where you're getting it from, and you know it's coming from a reliable source, right? Right? You can vet everything inside, especially inside of our community, because we're transparent about everything, right? Transparency and honesty. I think those are key aspects of life, right? You got to be transparent and honest. So let's go to the next slide. Now, all right, let's round up some of the idea, right? So personal credit, if you're going to use that and leverage it, keep your utilization below 9%, somewhere between 1 and 9. Some people ask, hey, does it matter if do you have to spend some money on the card? I would say yes, because you want to make sure that your lender doesn't end up chopping down your limits, because they historically, and they're notorious for chopping down your limits. Like, look, if you don't use the card, there's no reason for you to have this limit, right? 3 documents every corporation must have, every single company must have: profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, and your tax returns. So if you're a corporation, you're going to have the 1120s or the 1120S for your company, right? So what counts as income? Again, and why this all matters is because let's say you go to a banking institution and you're going to get asked some of these questions, right? Seasoned people that go into banks asking for money know these answers already. They come into this knowing these answers already, right? So again, let's go back over this. We started off by setting ourselves up with understanding that we need multiple entities. We even involve involved a personal guarantor that we hired to make sure that we can help raise the capital. We started acquiring some assets, and now we're going back into the institutions to leverage against all of it, right? And we're saying, hey, you know what? Now I need $500,000 for one company. It's a very real thing, right? But they want to see the potential income of the company. This is some of the things that the bank is going to be asking. So what counts? All income from whatever source is derived. That's the IRS's definition of income. IRS code subsection 61. That is the legal definition of income. So no, it does not mean cash. It does not mean it comes from a W-2 payroll. It does not mean that it got deposited into your bank account. This is the definition of income. Cash, services received. We did a whole tax class, in fact. Did anybody realize that a service you receive from somebody is considered income? Royalties, dividends, barter trade. Has anyone bartered something out there that you guys didn't realize was considered income? I mean, in all honesty, have you got the phone call from the homegirl and was like, hey girl, let me do this for you, and then in exchange, you do this for me. Both of y'all made some money, or income according to the IRS's definition. You both made some, right? Rents, forgiven debt is actually considered income. Property is considered income, right? Forgiven corporate debt equals taxable income. So, okay, real live example that everybody knows about. I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but if you've ever had a car repoed, I've had a car repoed in my life, maybe a couple, more than I like to admit. Right? That car repo, they repossess the car. They're going to go sell it in the auction. And then whatever they sold it for, that's actually reportable income for you. That sell amount in the auction is your reportable income, right? So, but the remaining amount of the debt, right, that's still owed. Now, again, that's still debt, but the amount that they sold the vehicle for, that's actually income on your balance sheet, even though technically you still look like you took loss. You had some type of income from a forgiven debt. All right, let's go to this. So what's the mogul mindset in all of this? The old thinking, credit is a score to manage, and no, it's not. Again, in this community, we kind of step beyond the concept of just a credit score. We do creative financing, or what they call financial engineering. No, we don't worry solely about credit scores. There's too many opportunities out here. I had said nothing about how dope your credit has to be in order for you to accomplish any of this stuff. Nobody cares. Find somebody that's already there, because when you have the type of income that this type of stuff produces, you'll innately see your credit go through the roof because you'll be making plenty of money, right? Then for another class, I'll show you guys how to hire the right accounting and bookkeeping and financial team to make sure you guys are well taken care of. That you apply once and wait. No. Capital stacking does not have anything to do with applying at one time with one institution and waiting to see what happens. One entity does everything. Again, we talked about that. No, absolutely not. No, we do not operate from the mindset of I can get it all done with this one entity. If you are going into the rest of this year thinking that your one business will satisfy everything, I will see you next year still at the same position. You have my word on that. And I'm not wishing bad luck. I'm just telling you a factual thing, how this thing works in business. We raise capital from a multitude of entities, and that's just how it works. Income equals cash only. And it doesn't. Again, we define things based on where the source of the definition comes from. I do not define anything based on my own interpretation. At least I try my best not to. My partners, they usually get on my head if I'm defining it my own way. So, I try to stay away from my definition. Let's use the IRS's definition. IRS's definition of income. Again, you guys realize that there's way more definitions of income other than just cash, or other than a deposit or a W-2 paycheck into your bank account. Bartered services. The challenge is we didn't put a value to the services that we bartered. Hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna babysit for you tonight so you can go out and do your thing, and you exchange that for me and my kids another night. What's the value of that? We need to determine the value of that babysitting time. And there's a market value for just about everything. All right, thinking small and borrowing small. Absolutely not. I started this whole thing off because I wanted you guys to see your own ability to be able to raise $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million. When you start thinking in this multitude, that number starts becoming way more realistic, and it's practical. Because I didn't ask you guys to go raise $500,000 with one company. I said try to raise $50,000 with 10 companies. Much easier to do, right? So the mogul thing, credit is financial engineering. It's all it is. Multi-move capital strategy. Each corp has one focused purpose. Income equals cash, royalties, notes, services, and much more. Stack corps like chess pieces. Right? Because we are out here playing chess. This ain't no checkers game for none of us. All right. So let me give you guys some action steps. So audit your structure. If you're looking at yourself right now, you're saying, look, I only have one entity to do this with. That's the first thing you need to check. List every entity, identify which have EINs, credit profiles, and bank accounts. My magic number is 3. Start with the 3. Because to me, you have to have mental bandwidth to manage all of this in your head, right? Our team, we are working on capital raising for several clients right now. It's kind of one of the things that's had me pretty bogged down. But again, I'm not going to front on the community. But one client's structure, we have 5 entities already. We have 4 built out right now. We have another one coming. We have another client that's in Lebanon that has their own entity that we are going to structure here in the States. And again, I'm being very, very transparent with you guys. I'm not supposed
to. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you give an example, like, of what company or how you got the 4 in the one particular entity?
Oh, absolutely. No, gladly. Actually, let me see here. So how about I give you guys an actual real live example? And this is what we just created. And actually this person's company structure, we just set all of this up. All right, can everybody see the screen? This is Vora Holdings. It's actually one of our members in the community. We've got some really, really special things going on with the company. So I'm really excited about this. Vora Systems is a subsidiary, right? Vora Capital, and then Vora Peru. So these 4 entities are what we just created. We now are working on our Nevis and our, I believe it's the Cayman Islands entity, right? So those are the 2 additional entities on top of it. So it's 5 entities. This is just the U.S. entities right here. And this will be added on too, because this company has a joint venture going on with some others and blah, 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 blah. But the idea is this is some of what you're going to see as just your initial structure. Now, why do we do it like this? Vora Holdings.
I'm sorry, real quick, and I apologize. So quick question. Do any percentage of the companies the entities that you add, do any percentage of them have to be in the U.S., international? Are they all, or you can mix them up just like you're doing here?
No, that's, it's a great question actually, but that's always relative to the mission of the company.
Okay.
Right? There's a very specific mission. Obviously, now that's the details of what we're doing. I can't really get into, but
sure.
But that would be specific to what your purpose is. So,
okay,
and obviously, so Vora Systems in this case is like a management company, right? So it's the front-facing public thing that you're going to see. Again, a lot of us in the community are going to hear a lot about it. We're going to be doing a lot of things together. Vora Capital. So Vora Capital, it's totally designed just to raise capital for different investment projects, and one project at a time. So those are called syndication, right? So this is like our syndicating vehicle right here, right? Vora Peru is the beginning of the international operation, but still a subsidiary of the holding. Now, Vora Systems itself might have 3 or 4 different subsidiaries under it. Vora Capital already has 4 subsidiaries under it. The reason why is because we created Vora Capital as what's called a Series LLC. And again, as I say that, if anybody wants to look that up while I'm saying it, we created as a Series LLC out of Wyoming. That Series LLC, we can create a series from the parent company of Vora Capital. And every single company, every single series, so think Vora Capital 31, Vora Capital 32, Vora Capital 33. 31, 32, and 33 are technically, legally, separate companies, but they are all hosted under this same Vora Capital. But the reason why we do that is because we use each particular entity just to raise capital. So Vora Capital 31, that might be for, hey, we want to buy this business over here. We'll get investors involved to buy that one single business, and that's all, right? And again, we might we don't want any exposure to the entire machine. So Vora Capital 3031 is the only thing that's liable in the midst of the entire machine. Now, the machine benefits from it all, right? But Vora Capital 31 is the only one that's exposed of liability of it all. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So again, the SPV, special purpose vehicle, all that, there are terms that you can use for these for international entities. The term SPV came from investment banking. All right. And part of the reason that they call them SPVs is because they want that vehicle to be the liability vehicle. So let's say hypothetically we're in the space of raising capital from investors, but we don't want to raise over here in the US. We'd actually preferably go raise in someplace in Europe. Let's just pick a European nation, because it might be the regulations might be a little more lenient over there for us to raise the capital. So yes, naturally, we're going to form an SPV over there and use that as the vehicle that's where all the investors' deposits are going to go into, right? And then that company is then going to reinvest, or is going to deploy that capital let's say back into our business here back in the US, right? We do that because again, we want to be able to alleviate regulatory red tape, right? So we get investors to deposit their funds into outside of the nation, which takes us outside of the SEC, but we want them to reinvest back into a US based company. So we create an SPV somewhere overseas specifically just to accomplish that one purpose. Nothing else. It's not designed to do everything. Has no purpose anywhere else. Your job is just to host the money and deploy the money. That's it. Right. And that same company, it'll have its own banking relationships and everything. And it might leverage those banking relationships to access even more capital. So for example, that SPV in Europe, we may have raised, let's say 10 million USD. That money that's sitting inside of that account, 10 million USD. Now the bank that we're banking with is like, hey, if you guys hit the 10 million, we can give you a line of credit of 3x multiple, meaning they can give us a line of credit of $30 million. This is a very real thing. This happens every day, right? So it's not just pooling the capital into the one little entity over there overseas. And again, it's another reason why I always, one of the things I'm really, really big on is us thinking about our abilities globally. I think for all of the members that I've had a conversation with, I think we've all had that global conversation, right? Expanding outside of our neighborhoods, getting outside of our states. Even here in the US, different states have different laws. So you got to learn how to take advantage of those respective laws in those respective states to be able to, why do investors like to invest in the companies in California? Hell no, absolutely not. Nope. Silicon Valley had a sanction. All those companies out there had a whole thing going on with the California government that gave them a boatload of tax credits. The moment that was up, everybody left town. And you know where they went to? Texas, right? They went out to Texas for the very same reason, because Texas was like, oh, no, come on. We give you all the subsidies and all the tax benefits and everything that you want. We'll give it to you right out here, right? So no, that's how it is now in Texas. Now, where is a normal state that most investors, especially companies that go public? Delaware. About 80% of the publicly traded companies are filed out of Delaware. Just about every one of the banks that you guys all bank with, credit union or not, they all are originally filed out of Delaware. Most of them. Anybody got a Navy Fed account? It says that their office is in Virginia, right? They're filed out of Delaware. They're foreign filed in Virginia, which is called their headquarters, right? So when you start looking at how to shift all these entities and these and the overall structure around, then you start seeing gaps and you start seeing room where you could take advantage of certain things. Because again, if you're trying to raise capital for your business in California, I would suggest to create an entity in Wyoming and let that Wyoming entity own the California company, because the investors are open to investing into Wyoming, right? Does that make sense? And it's $100 to file an entity in Wyoming, by the way, $100. It's super cheap. But why would they want to invest into a Wyoming company and not a California? Because of public exposure, right? Everything's private in Wyoming. So you can't just go see everybody's assets the way you can in California. You guys ever hear these stories about these celebrities? People end up finding their house. I think they said something about Nia Long that just happened with her. It was crazy. You know why they found Nia Long? Because her house is on public record. That's California shit. That's New York stuff, right? It's unfortunate, but you don't even think to even care about that type of stuff until you get into this mental space where you're like, wait a sec, privacy is actually something that I want and something that my investors want, right? So we position things so it works to the advantage of the people that we're trying to attract, right? All right, let me get back to the rest of this thing here. So again, like I was saying, audit your structure, define each corporation's purpose. Pull all 4 business credit reports, all 4. And you can't really pull SBFE, but again, Experian Business, Equifax Business, Dun & Bradstreet, and SBFE. Novice people think Dun & Bradstreet is all you need. Oh yeah, you get an 80 PEDX score. No. Most lenders, most banks, when it comes to financial products, can care less about Dun & Bradstreet. So they're looking more at Experian Business for financial products like credit cards, lines of credit, things like that. Equifax Business, they're looking at that more so for equipment financing, right? Get financial docs current, P&Ls, balance sheets, tax returns, clean and ready. Underwriters will ask, so be prepared, all right? So again, tonight's full resource list, I just wanted to kind of give you a recap of those. Age corps and registration, credit partners and personal guarantors, music royalty platforms, notes receivable marketplaces, or what have you. And a Mogul sets up corporations the way investors set up chess pieces, each positioned for a future move, right? That is the ultimate design of how we build our businesses. Again, not to add extra layers of complexity, but that level of complexity is what also adds extra layers of value to your bottom line. So for example, if you are the 100% business owner of your holdings company, but your holdings company has 4 subsidiaries, and though each one of those subsidiaries are either generating revenue or have assets on the balance sheet, then that single holdings company proves to be pretty valuable, right? And you can use the 4 subsidiaries to help you raise the capital, or in this case, the 10, right? So if you're using financing tools, let's say like commercial finance, commercial real estate finance, or just a quick heads up, by the way, like one of the greatest pathways into wealth creation, right? Wealth creation is real estate. And mostly it's because of how easy the financing options are. And again, let me speak specifically to commercial real estate, because commercial real estate financing is the tool that you use as an investor, right? So you're no longer looking at FHA loans and, how can I get the lowest down payment and blah, 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 low closing costs. No. And you're not looking at escrow and all of that long, arduous ass process. In this fashion, with commercial financing, you can get the deal done and fully financed in 7 days. If you package the deal right together and you get the lender to approve, again, with your hired personal guarantor, or even somebody else, again, you guys might have somebody yourself who might be a great PG for you, for your company. Let them pose their credit, and in exchange, you make them a part of the deal. Your job is to orchestrate the deal, and you can get the deal done in a week. Now, before I even speak to that, I wanted Cedric to kind of give you guys an idea. Cedric has an enormously deep history in real estate investing. I mean, he's tech guy. This guy does all type of shit. It's crazy. But I wanted him to speak to that because, again, if anybody, he has the experience. He was involved in the real estate game before the real estate, bubble popped in 2008, right? Invested into a lot of developments and all these other projects, and understands that game from a standpoint of like real world experience, right? I am a real estate investor. I, with my father, and now even with my partner, we own several properties, right? We are in the midst of refining and pulling out capital and turning properties into investment properties. But the wealth creation is massive in that space. So if you don't have any wealth, you can start looking into real estate. And for those of you that are in these high valued ass markets, if you're in California, New York, Florida, maybe some parts of Illinois, real estate is through the cost of real estate is through the roof, right? If you're in Boston or Massachusetts or somewhere, cost of real estate is through the roof. So look outside those markets. You're an investor. You don't have to invest down the street. You're an investor. Look across the entire planet. But if you're going to look here in the US, because the financing is so great, look in Indiana, look in Ohio, look in the Midwest, look in Michigan, look in these other places where it's easy to penetrate the market and get in the game. Once you got in the game, you got assets that you're starting to put on the balance sheet. And then there's creative ways to extract the capital and so on and so forth, right? But again, so if you're starting even at zero, you can consider real estate as a tool to get into, because if the deal is good, honestly, the banks will finance you 80% LTV. It's called loan to value ratio, right? So your job is to come up with 20%. How do you think you come up with the 20%? That finance partner, that personal guarantor partner, or an investor, another fellow investor gets involved with you on the deal. You still own 80% of the deal. It's value creation at its finest on the ground floor. So you could turn that value into something and then find your way. Because again, if you're playing chess, if you're truly playing chess and not checkers, you know that you never go a single route to try to accomplish, a checkmate. Never try to go a singular route. You have to strategize pieces across the entire board. So even if you want to launch, let's say like one of our members, you want to launch a medical practice. But if you don't have the capital to launch the medical practice now, but you do have the resources to do the real estate deal, do this right now. Keep the medical practice right here, because that's your MVP. That's your most valuable product. When the time comes, you'll be able to have plenty of capital to pour into this. And that's when explosion happens, right? So again, I'm gonna wrap this up, but you guys, these are tools. I'm only giving you guys the tools to think about. How you utilize the tools becomes how you now, okay, cool, this is what's in my toolbox. Let me start shifting all these tools around and start maneuvering pieces on the board to see how I want this to all work harmonically together, right? How do I get all of these tools to work together? Because now I have a very clear pathway of how I can utilize separate entities, how I can raise the capital. Maybe we even have a whole nother talk about how to actually get investors involved. Pitch decks and all types of stuff that I've used to raise capital. I think that might be kind of fun. Yeah, it might be kind of fun. So yeah, but right now I'm gonna leave it open for Q&A if you guys wanna, or if you guys just want to chit chat or tell me about some of the opportunities you guys are working on. I'd love to hear it. for sure.
Good evening, man. My name is Romo, man. I just joined your community today. I heard you
Yes,
talk
I've been
about.
seeing you come through the pipeline, Roma. Hi, welcome to the family.
Thank you. I understand you talked about the Wyoming companies. Can you tell me the specific company where I can get the Shelf Corp from?
Yeah, so that Wyoming company is the one that I trust the most. So Wholesale Shelf Corps, for example, I've used them before, but they're just expensive for no reason. So I only go to Wholesale Shelf Corps when I'm ready for a credit partner on a deal. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
let's say if we're doing the acquisition, if I'm looking at a business and I know, so the SBA, you guys, for example, will finance up to 90% of a deal. So this is how we've orchestrated working on. No, it was like a car dealership purchase that we were working on. The way we orchestrated the deal was we had the SBA put up 90%, and we had the seller of the business carry. Actually, no, it was only 80%. They put up 80% of the loan, and then we had the seller of the business carry 20%. So that way, we were able to walk away with the dealership with zero down. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, and in that case, we used the credit partner to accomplish the actual financing. So now, if you're going to get investors involved, for example, or if you want to use the strategy of just liquidating the H corp, because I've done this for years. I've probably been I was liquidating H corp stuff and raising capital off of that before I even knew what it was. So I'd take an H corp, I'd build up the business credit. I would go finance all of these tools and resources or what have you. So for example, my guy and Antonio Daniel, and on the call now. He's part of the community and he's on the team. One of his companies qualified for $25,000 line of credit at Home Depot, EIN only. Right now, what would that mean to anybody who's not in construction and doesn't give a damn about a Home Depot account? Well, Home Depot also sells gift cards that can also be exchanged for points. That can also, essentially, you could find ways to move that money around and liquidate it into cash, right? And those become opportunities that you can use with Age Corp. So let's say you did that. Let's say you also went ahead and went to Dell Computers. Not that everybody's rushing for a Dell Computers because either you got an HP or a Mac or something else like that. But a computer's a computer. You got a $30,000. One of our members, Aaliyah, she got approved for $30,000 with Dell Computers. With even Dell Computers, they have Visa, MasterCard gift cards, and then they also have the equipment. So especially with this massive tech race out here going on right now, everybody and their mama wants to buy servers. So use your $30,000 to buy the servers, and then go sell the servers for cash. That's how you liquidate your asset, right? And you do all of that EIN only, and that's just like one of many strategies of how you can use just the company. We're not even worried about your personal credit right now. How you can use just the company to orchestrate deals. So, I know that was a little overkill, but I hope that helps.
It does, man. It does. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to send you a link so we can schedule some time to talk.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Quick side note.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Pang.
Quick question. I have a Wyoming court, but it's not in good standing. Would I utilize the resources that you gave today to help me get it back into good standings? Because I want to utilize the system that you have presented today. But would I use that resource you gave today?
So, for example, I'm a little partial to companies that are now inactive or not in good standing because that stays on the record of the company itself. So I would more prefer you just to set up a brand new company if you can, because it's hard to adopt the age of a company and it's crazy because I hear people out here, oh yeah, you could just go reactivate an old company. No, you can't. I'm sorry, banks see that, you guys. I don't know who lied to these damn people, but banks see that stuff. You go into the bank and you've just reactivated this company. You know how old they think that company is? They don't think it's as old as you remember it to be. They only look at it from the date that you reactivated it. So it's really imperative to stay on top of that annual filing and to keep the company in good standing so it looks like it's been active the entire time. That's the purpose of us buying H Corps. That's why I like reliable sources for H corporations, for example, like Wyoming Company, because they keep their companies open and in good standing the entire time. So you're actually buying a quality H corporation. But so in your case, yeah, sure. But in your case, I would say if you're gonna, let's say I'll just give you a quick breakdown right now. Create 3 new companies, 3 LLCs specific. One of those are going to act as your holdings, and the other 2, one is going to act as your management, and the other one's going to act like your intellectual property company. Let's say hypothetically, right? So one is your management company or the company that is the customer facing one, and the other company is gonna act like the manager measure of all of the IP and branding and everything else, right? For licensing purposes, and I'm just saying this from a hypothetical standpoint, or even it might be even your equipment company, because you might need that company just for the equipment for your facility. And that's all that company does is it leases out the equipment to the main company that's customer facing. So the only two companies you're going to foreign file those two companies into California in this case, right? You're going to foreign file those two companies, and you're only going to really operate mostly on the one. Now, those two companies that you foreign file, they are going to be wholly owned by the one that's still left in Wyoming. You never foreign file that Wyoming company. You keep that one right there in Wyoming. Create an EIN. Do everything you need to do with it, the whole get up. But again, for the most part, that company stays. But yeah, as I was saying, you set up those two companies are going to be the ones that you foreign file over there. The one in Wyoming is the one that you keep in Wyoming. That's going to act as your holdings. That Wyoming company, you're gonna do a tax election on that LLC to be taxed as an S or a C corporation. All right. And then so that one company is going to own these two over here, right? They're going to all have separate EINs. All the revenue is going to come mainly through the management company, and the profits are going to funnel back to the holdings company, if that makes sense.
Well, how would any of that interfere with the S Corp I just established in California about CaliCare? Any of that?
No, you can always revert it though. So whoever the owner is however you determine it to be. So for example, if you form the holdings now out of Wyoming and you give the ownership of even the S Corp 100% over to the Cali company, even though it's an S Corp right now, it's still fine. As long as the profits ultimately go back to the Wyoming company, you're fine.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no
But
problem.
I probably wouldn't do that. I'm gonna leave Cali alone and just follow your steps with the 3 in Wyoming. Well, 2 in Wyoming, 2 in Cali.
Well, you're filing all
One
3 in
in
Wyoming first, and then you're going to
first.
foreign file 2 of those
Foreign
companies into California.
That's it. I wrote it
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Thank you, Antonio.
No problem. No problem. All right. Listen, I apologize. I guess clearly somebody's telling us we need to get the hell up off of here. So, but listen, I appreciate you guys for tapping in one more time. And, again, we'll get back at it next week. I'm going to work on doing a coffee hour sometime tomorrow, because I'm going to be just in front of the computer most of the day. So, but I got to catch up with my guy, Cedric. We got some talking to do. But I appreciate you guys. So we're going to tune out, and you guys, I'll see you guys next time for sure.
Thank you.